So thank you so much for inviting me to speak today about this very important topic and how COVID-19 is impacting children and the importance of international efforts, including the G20, as you said. I want to start my presentation with a quote from a 14-year-old girl from Kenya. She told us, "I'm worried about my learning. I also feel tired of home chores. I have fear of teenage pregnancy and child marriage. Schoolgirls are at the most targeted when it comes to marriage due to school closure." This is the reality for a lot of children and teenagers around the world. And the impacts of COVID-19 are felt around the world. Children's lives have been turned upside down. More than 140 million children live in households that has been driven into poverty last year. Hundreds of millions of children are still affected by school closures, with millions of the most vulnerable at risk of not returning at all, and of increased risk of child marriage and child labor. Last year, the 6 largest countries in South Asia saw 228,000 additional children dying because of disruption to health services. So this is a true challenge to the world and to the rights of children. And as we know, COVID comes at the time where we're already facing a climate crisis, we're facing a lot of conflict, which together with COVID is posing a triple threat to the populations around the world. The pandemic is threatening children's rights and risk undermining progress towards the SDGs and the pledge to leave no one behind. The pandemic has amplified huge inequalities within and across countries. The economic divide between the richer and the poorest countries had led to the former using their wealth to secure better access to tools to help their response, whether PPE, oxygen, or vaccines, often at the expense of poorer countries. They have also been in a better position to provide social safety measures to cushion their populations from the brunt of the pandemic impacts. As we look towards the G20 summit later this year, it is crucial that leaders up their game to really turn a corner on bringing an end to the pandemic and mitigating its impact. And as many people have said before me, no one is safe until everyone is safe. And taking that leadership includes contributing their fair share to close the funding gaps needed to ensure equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines, to tests, to treatments, and make sure that we urgently are sharing vaccine doses across the globe. And the G20 has a key role to play to help mitigate the impacts of COVID-19 and the access to health, education, and livelihood. An ambitious action is needed to build forward better with stronger, greener, and more inclusive systems for all children. The G20 can help countries address the impacts of the pandemic and protect against climate change and other shocks by supporting a global fund for social protection and expanding coverage of nationally led child-sensitive, shock-responsive social protection. It is important that countries work progressively towards universal child benefits over time. And COVID-19 has been a wake-up call for the investments needed to strengthen resilient health systems that can prepare for and respond to public health emergencies while continuing to deliver essential services for all as part of universal health coverage. Alongside domestic funding, donor investments through flexible financing and support to strengthen national health systems will be vital. Long-term and flexible finance for nutrition is needed urgently. G20 leadership and commitments will be important for us to make sure that this year's Nutrition for Growth Year of Action is a success. And similarly, the G20 commitment to education and to address the educational emergency is critical. And this includes ODA to lower income countries together with national investments to help close the education financing gap. And we look at the leadership of the G20 to help ensure a successful global partnership for education replenishment in July. Financing that strengthen both humanitarian responders and national systems is crucial to free up fiscal space to spend on social sectors and children. Aid needs to be protected, delivering on international aid targets to spend 0.7% of GNI, and supporting the early replenishment of World Bank International Development Association. Alongside this, leadership needs to be exerted to support debt cancellation and devolving recent release special drawing rights quota to the poorer countries. I want to end to strongly urge the leaders to prioritize children's voices. They need to listen to children and their demands for a solution going forward. Last year, we did a global survey to hear directly from children about how they had been impacted by COVID-19. And I want to finish by telling you what they told us. Children demand action on education, including the reopening of schools and improved distance learning, an acceleration in the response to the pandemic, and increased access to healthcare, as well as a call for duty bearers to prioritize poor families with the provision of social protection. Children are calling on duty bearers to protect them from increasing violence as a result of COVID-19, and crucially, to honor their right to be heard and to participate in public decision-making on issues that affect them. Thank you.